Good evening, everybody. Tonight is the 2016 or August 16th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting. I'm Travis Ney. Over to my left, we have Scott Woodbury, Maren Patterson, Phil Markham. And to my right, we have Lisa Milkevich and Sue Wilson and Ned Hacker. From staff this evening, we have Mark Boren, we have Zach Smallwood and Jim McNulty, and then representing the legal department, we have Bryant Farnsworth. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have a cell phone, we ask that you please turn your cell phone off or put it on silent. If you need to take a call, please take it out in the other room. If you're here to speak to an issue this evening, when it is time, we will open that up. We ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes. If you're representing a group of individuals, we'll give you 5 minutes. That's about it. We have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of up here, and then we'll get into the meat of the agenda. So item number 1 for our agenda this evening is approval of the minutes from the August 2nd, 2018 meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
Any changes other than the minor grammatical issues identified? Okay, I will call for a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the August 2nd, 2018 Planning and Zoning meeting.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Woodbury. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Markham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 2 is conflict of interest. Does anybody have any conflicts of interest with the items on the agenda this evening?
No.
Nope.
No. All right. Item number 3 is approval of the finding of fact from the August 2nd, 2018 meeting. We have 2 that we need to review. The first one is a certificate of appropriateness for Ice House for an expansion of an outdoor patio area at the property address 7 East, 4800 South. And then the second is Hogan Accessory Dwelling Unit, conditional use. And that property is 17 East, 6150 South. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
And any changes, modifications? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact for the certificate of appropriateness for Ice House patio expansion at 7 East, 4800 South, and also for the conditional use permit for the Hogan Accessory Dwelling Unit located at 17 East, 6150 South.
I have a motion by Mr. Markham
I'd like to second that motion.
and a second by Ms. Milkevich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Item number 4 on our agenda this evening is a certificate of appropriateness for a major alteration for the properties addressed 134 through 140 East, 4800 South. Is the applicant here this evening?
I'm sorry. Yes, I am.
We'll have you up in just a moment. Mr. McNulty.
Thank you. For this, it's the applicant's Oski LLC. The properties are known as 134 through 140 East at 4800 South. We have an aerial view here. For those of you in the audience, if you look at the 2 monitors, you can see the property in question. You can see that location just a couple buildings east of the 7-Eleven building on the corner of 48th and State. You can see here, this is our zoning map. It is in the Murray City Center District Zone. And then this is the existing site, the existing building, and the existing layout of this particular site as the building sits today. This is the proposed site plan. You can see some of the enhancements that are being proposed. There's a planter area on the east side of the building adjacent to the parking, 2 planter areas. You see 2 ADA accessible parking spaces that would be painted and marked, a tree and a grate. And then there's also some additional parking spaces on the back side or south side of the building that don't currently exist. This is the main floor plan. The areas in blue, it's my understanding that those are walls or improvements that will be removed through the remodel of this particular building. Okay. The blue is existing, and so some of that will be going away with the remodel. Now, on the main floor, we have 3 office retail type tenant spaces that orient or front towards 4800 South. They each have their own doorway, some existing signs and access. I'll get to a picture of that in just a moment. But what I wanted to bring to the Planning Commission's attention is there is an apartment unit on the main floor of the building. The current code in MCC does not allow for apartments or residential uses on the main floor. However, this is a legal non-conforming unit that has been there for quite some time and is currently used as a rental unit. This is kind of a cross-section of the basement floor, You can see that there would be 2 apartment units in the basement, apartment 1, apartment 2. I believe one is just under 700 square feet and the other one's just under 500 square feet. And then you can see the stairway down that would provide the access or ingress and egress to and from the apartments from the parking lot area. And then the other would be for use for storage or utility type space on that ground floor. So this is the existing condition. This is the building as it sits today. We have the bookstore and the off the rack and then the dental office on the east end there that you can see. The building isn't, really much to look at this point in time. The applicant is here tonight. He has different designs and ideas, or the representative of the applicant. As I indicated earlier, this did go to our Murray City Center Design Review Committee on June 28th. They were excited with the change to the building, both the interior changes as well as the exterior changes. You can see here on the right side where it says books and barbershop, that's a metal material. And then in the middle of the building, you see brick that kind of loosely matches what's out there now. And then we have the wood board, kind of a wood clad type of board shown on the east end of the building. So that's the elevation as it faces 4800 south. This is the existing situation facing south. If I'm looking north, this is the back side of the building, and you can see that we have a little bit of a hodgepodge there. So certainly what's being proposed here is a great change to the building and would benefit the area. So this is an elevation facing west. So from the parking lot, you would see this. So you see the back side of the dentist's office, the different materials, the windows to create some variety and interest, and then you also have a ramp providing another access to the dentist's office. So just some existing conditions. If you look at this photo upper left, that's the building facade right now as it presents itself to 4800 South. So there really isn't any room for improvements or street trees or things of that nature. It's just kind of street parking, curb, gutter, sidewalk, and building face. There's not much there to work with. You can see what's across the street, that there's been some remodels across the street. We have an office that's brick and then a house that's quite nice. And so these are buildings that have been redone in the last few years. Again, looking at the proposed site plan with landscaping, you can see the planter areas, you can see a tree on that elevation to the east. Now, what I want you to see is to the back, the south side, you see the site plan and you see 2 parking spaces that are adjacent to the building. Those 2 parking spaces are for the 2 units. Each apartment unit on the ground floor requires 1 permanent parking space. So we talked about the parking, and I'll let the applicant speak to the Planning Commission about the parking agreement. That it's our understanding that there's an agreement with Mr. Todd, who owns the Desert Star Theater in the area, for parking, but it's limited after 6 p.m. at night, which makes sense because that's when they're having plays and shows and different operations in that particular business. Again, the backside area, so the bottom right kind of shows the area. If I'm looking north again, it's the side of the building there where we would do some enhancements and have the parking and the access, and then the upper area, I could be wrong, but I believe that's the area where we would have some permanent parking, some parking improvements, and then the permanent spaces for the apartments that go below. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission consider granting approval of this, of our project here for, I'm sorry, and I know what it is. It is a certificate of appropriateness, I'm sorry, for a major modification to this building, as per the recommendation of city staff and our Murray City Center Design Review Committee as well. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? I think we're good. Thank you. We could have the applicant come up. We'll just have you state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jamie Metsia. My address is 945 East 13800 South, Draper.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to review the 11 conditions as proposed?
I have, yes, I have.
You'll be able to comply with those conditions?
I do have one question regarding one of the conditions.
Certainly.
The report makes reference to the, I guess it was the City Department review meeting on July 30th. I was actually at that meeting. And under the item for the building official, they make reference to the project shall meet all code requirements, including the installation of a fire sprinkler system for the apartment units. It was my understanding at that meeting, I asked specifically if we needed fire sprinklers. And the representative for the fire department said we did not need fire sprinklers, but we would need to have a interconnected fire alarm system. The building official stated, and again, it's my understanding, stated that we would have to comply with the area separation. In other words, the way the building's assembled, from, let's say, apartment to commercial space, we'd have to I'm not sure if it was either a 1 hour or 2 hour rated wall, but it was my understanding that the fire sprinklers were not required. So I want to clarify that, because if we're not required to do it, obviously I would prefer not to do it.
Correct. So in reading through the staff report or looking at that, I think in one instance, Jared quotes the interconnection of the smoke detectors, or, the detector and the carbon monoxide. That's what we're currently doing for ADUs. And then it talks about fire sprinkling here. I believe that what the applicant is saying is correct. I was at that meeting. I didn't take notes down verbatim, but that's what we are doing with other units that are similar to this. So I think we just say, we remove that and just say as per, like we do in a previous
As
condition.
per the building official,
As
correct?
per the building official. So
There'll be a
we will
fire
have to
inspection
work
as
with
well.
Steve Reed and the building official and the inspections, and they can work that out.
Yeah, I'm completely comfortable
okay.
with that. Anybody have any problem with that?
Oh, that makes
We'll
sense.
just remove number 3 altogether,
Makes total sense.
because it falls under number 2 then, really, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm happy with it. It's great.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I did bring material boards because I was under the understanding that I was supposed to. So I brought the actual stone product, or the brick product.
If you carried it in, you might as well bring it up.
Of course, sure.
Like scratches stuff.
We have paint chips as well that are attached.
I think what you are proposing is a dramatic improvement to the
Yeah.
look of the building as
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
Just that's great.
I like the brick facade. I
Do a
think we
nice
can
job.
see that.
I used to work on the.
Taught Vanna everything.
Just kidding.
Are there any additional questions for the applicant while we're reviewing this?
No, there was some discussion about the dumpster. And
Yeah, I don't see anything on your plan. Maybe you could point out
garbage dumpster.
where you plan on storing the dumpster. Is that your dumpster? Or is it the dumpster that's owned by the adjacent property owner? And then
the garbage container.
Yeah, and there was.
Let's take a look at it, folks.
There it is.
So we generally have a dumpster enclosure with materials.
And lighting the parking lot?
I would assume that is our dumpster, but when these photos were taken, when we began the design process, the building was basically vacant except for the barber shop. I would only assume it's ours because actually that is not our dirt, actually, so it may not be ours. In the event that it is, so what you basically.
what we would require is that you have some sort of screening for the garbage cans or dumpster, whichever you have. So
Does the screening require a roof?
it does not require a
Okay,
roof.
so it's a detached six. Sure. Okay.
Just an enclosure. That's all.
I have no issue with that. But where that dumpster is, I'm almost positive that is not our dirt. We'd have to go back to the site plan and take a look. The property boundaries over there are very kind of organic.
Yes.
Good way to.
And then currently in your parking agreement, you have one 24-hour spot, and we're
We
requiring.
actually, per our existing covenant, we have two 24-hour spots.
Okay.
And then we're proposing two more on our dirt. So we will have a total of 4 24-hour spots.
Okay, that's actually that's good.
Change to condition number 8.
Yeah.
Our existing covenant says 2 24 hours, and then we're building 2 new ones on our dirt. So that means we'll have 4 24 hours.
I had a question. Do you have any plans for lighting in the parking lot?
Well, the parking lot is not technically our dirt. So at the moment, no. We would, now we haven't,
What about perhaps a wall path on the building?
oh, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. I'd have no issue doing that. I would rather, though, not have to trench up and put pylons and all that stuff.
Okay.
Are there any light restrictions in the city of Murray? In other words-
Downward directed, and there's usually a height limit.
MCCD,
Yeah.
yes.
We do.
Okay.
have some light restrictions, and that's something here for sure.
Okay.
It would be shielded and directed.
Okay, makes perfect sense.
Like you've dealt with before.
Yeah, makes-
Light spill to do some progress.
Yeah, pretty typical.
Okay, well, I don't see any other questions for you, so we'll have you take a seat and we'll
Wonderful,
open
thank
this up
you.
for public comment. If anybody is here to speak to this issue, we ask that you come up, state your name and address for the record. Please. Good evening.
My name is Bruce Parsons. I own property on 48 South at 120 East, 4800 South, and I am very much in favor of accepting this proposal.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we will close the public comment period, bring it back up here for motion and or further discussion.
Do we need to put something in here about the dumpster and screening? That's a pretty standard condition in other locations, so.
I think to add a condition about a dumpster enclosure and screening, and then a condition about working with staff on wall path lighting as needed to be shielded and directed. If you want to consider that would be my recommendation.
I mean, what do you guys think?
I am for both of those.
So,
I think that's.
so what's
It's good to be
What's the wording?
proactive.
That's
I would
what
say
the
that
wording
the
is.
trash container / dumpster shall be screened.
If they use one, it shall be screened.
Per.
Not clear.
No,
Maybe
shall be
they've
screened.
got
It'll-
another-
Determine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they've got another method. Maybe they're going to compost on site. Who knows?
And that a lighting plan be in accordance with the MCCD design rules.
To be worked out, yeah, they'd work with staff,
Mm-hmm.
and then we come up with a solution. A lot of it could take the place of condition 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gives us a total of 12 conditions.
yeah, so the trash container will be screened if used, or
Sure.
if there is
I mean,
one.
I assume you have to have trash.
Right. The reality is, I
3
mean,
people living there, you got
and
to.
staff puts this in all the time, so I wish I could just say the usual screened of the trash container.
Yeah,
it's
It's in there almost, I mean,
That's for staff, I mean,
Per
Yeah.
ordinance.
just give us direction.
that's fine. You guys will make it pretty.
Yeah.
So,
Consider yourselves directed.
okay. Well, I will make a motion then that we approve a certificate of appropriateness for major alteration of the property addressed 134 through 140 East, 4800 South, with the following conditions. There were 11. We dropped out condition number 3, which was that the project shall meet all code requirements, including installation of fire sprinkler system, and that will fall under number 2, meeting with the building code, or the building official. But we are adding a condition, which would be, I guess, 11, that is per normal, the trash container shall be screened, if there is one. And a 12th condition to be a lighting plan will need to put together in accordance with the MCCD design guidelines and staff. So did I fumble my way through that well enough?
Pretty well. I have a motion by Mr. Woodbury to approve a certificate of appropriateness for a major alteration of a property addressed at 134 through 140 East, 4800 South, subject to conditions 1 through 12 as read into the record.
I second that motion.
And a second by Mrs. Milkevich. Call for a vote, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you for looking to improve our MCCD zone. We really do appreciate it. Good luck with your project. All right, item number... I moved the wrong notes. Item number 5 this evening is Mountain West CDL. They're seeking a conditional use for a commercial driver's license school at the property's address 4700 South, 900 East, unit number 8. It's the applicant here this evening. suspect the applicant's not here this evening.
Guess not.
All right, Mr. Smallwood.
Yeah. So this is an application for a driving school at Ivy Place. It's number 8. It is in the commercial CD zone, just south of the old Kmart building. There's where number 8 there, highlighted in red. Here's some photos of the property. There's plenty of parking. It shares parking across the entire site, so there's ample parking there. This is pictures I received from the applicant that showed the interior of the building. So with that, we're recommending approval with subject to these 6 conditions, with one of them being the improvements to the landscaping on 9th East. Any questions for me?
Any questions for staff?
I do have one question. What part of this application needs to come before the Plan Commission? Like, this seems like something that would fit into the Ivy Place. You know what I mean? Like, what part needs approval?
It's because it's in a driving school.
So it's the driving.
It's the actual business side of this.
Okay.
And that's what's required is in the CD zone for something like that. Because we could get something that is going to house the trucks on site, so it would be
So
to
we're
mitigate
trying to
that
protect
stuff.
against
exactly.
Okay,
But
because the
since-
actual use of the property seems very
Oh, yeah.
conforming to what's already
exactly.
there. Okay.
Yeah, and
Bring
just
your own
to
big
make sure
rig.
everybody knows, so I can clarify that this is not. There are not going to be any trucks on site or trailers. That's all done off site. This is all classroom based.
Well, since the applicant is not here this evening to address condition number 4 with landscaping, could you discuss a little bit about the reasoning behind requiring the landscaping?
Yes. What we've done in the past with our new landscaping ordinance, we have required that new buildings come in, existing conditional uses to come into conformance of that. Up until this point, any applications with Ivy Place have been in the rear of the property. I'll go back to on that left-hand side. Most of them have been in that building, which does not front 9th East, so we have not required them to make those improvements. But because this is located in that building, we're requiring them on here. And it will actually match the other side of 9th East. They have quite a lot of trees on that side.
And you guys have reached out to the property owner on this,
Yes,
correct?
yeah, we have. We reached out on Tuesday. Jared reached out to them and left them a voicemail, and we have not heard anything back as of today.
Okay.
Commissioner Nay.
Please.
We also had a little bit of discussion about item number 3 in the conditions.
Yes.
Hours of operation.
Yes, thank you. Actually, no, not this item. No, that's
auto store Saturday.
that's
Okay.
agenda number 7, I think.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Well, Mr. Commissioner, Madam, sorry about that.
It happens.
Well, you know, I used all my good words in the last motion. I guess it's just more of a philosophical question. With the applicant not being here and the applicant not returning the phone call, do we know that the applicant's going to comply with these 6 conditions?
Yes. During this time, if you guys decide to go with an approval, we actually have, they have to then submit for a business license.
Right.
And that goes through inspection processes. And they look at these, our dear Mr. Boring here will actually go and make sure that those are met, that those conditions are met before he will sign off on any application.
Right. Well, I guess the reason I ask that is more of, you know, it's nice to have, you know, on the record, you know, the applicants say that they will comply with,
I agree.
with what we're asking them to do. You know, then in the case when they have to come back, we have it in the minutes. So it just, so Jim.
So previously, we talked about in our pre-meeting before Planning Commission started, we talked about some previous applications where they brought up some of their concerns with landscaping requirements. So we have a new use. It's identified as a conditional use. It comes through a public hearing process. That's when we have them comply with the current landscaping ordinance to put the trees in place. And so we've had this issue come up a couple times the last year where applicants did not want to comply with that condition, and we've been directed by legal staff to approve the conditional use subject to the conditions that meet our land use ordinance, and they can choose to be there or not. If they cannot meet those conditions of approval, then they move on.
Fair enough.
So, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to have that on the record, just so people know, because usually the applicants are here and we do hear them say, yes, I will comply with those. So,
Right.
thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Smallwood? Nope. All right. At this point in time, we will open this up for public comment if there's anybody here to speak to this issue. Seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it back up here for a motion or discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend approval of a conditional use permit to allow a driving school at the property addressed 4700 South, 900 East, subject to the 6 conditions that are included in our presentation materials.
I have a motion by Mr. Markham to recommend approval of a conditional use permit to allow a driving school at the property address 4700 South, 900 East, unit number 8.
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Woodbury. Call for a vote.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6 this evening is Munchkin University, LLC, seeking a conditional use for a preschool. The property address 5099 South Germania Place. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you up in just a moment.
Great. So this specific business has actually come before you guys before about 4 years ago. They were living out of their in-laws' house and operating Munchkin University. They have now purchased their own house here on Germania Place, and they're looking to continue their business here. They are at the end of a cul-de-sac, and it's in the R18 zone. Just north of Horizon Elementary. I did say that right? It is Horizon. Okay, thank you. So here is a quick site plan. The area in red, the formal living and formal dining is where she anticipates to do the teachings there. And then she did provide us with a proposed play area on this. This is a little hard to read, but they have actually paved this entire area. So let's see if this will work. Jared can always get it to work. This area in here is all paved now. It is gated and meets our standards for gating for that use. Here, I guess I could have just showed you a picture that solves the issue right there. So with that, we are recommending approval for this application, subject to the 5 conditions. I do want to make mention that we have looked at the parking for this as well. And I believe in the staff report, it mentions that they're spaced out between 2 time periods, about a 5 to 10 minute window, so that they can actually drop off and get out of there before another wave of children come in. So any questions for me?
Any questions for staff?
I guess we haven't heard anything from the neighbors.
No, I have not. We have not gotten any comments from neighbors or anything like that. Okay. I'll just put in the record that I have heard from the applicant that she has spoken to the neighbors, and that most of them have been okay with it. But that's just going off the applicant. I can't actually state that for.
I guess I have a question. Sure. I'm not sure how to phrase this because I've never worked in a preschool setting, but I'm sure there's regulations for preschools, meaning like around safety, like
yes,
safety plugs and gates and elevation changes, and none of that's discussed here. I'm assuming that's through business license.
That is,
yep,
it's a home occupation business license. There are state regulations as well as city regulations that she would have to comply with. And this is part of that as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll have the applicant come up, please. Good evening, and we'll just have you state your name and address, please.
So I'm Heather Eliaba, and I live at 5099 South Germania Place in Murray.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to review the 5 conditions?
Yes, I have.
And you'll be able to comply with those 5 conditions.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to add?
I would just add, I spoke to the neighbors on my direct street on Germania Place. I did not speak to every single neighbor in the neighborhood, but on Germania Place, we did talk to those neighbors. So.
Can you clarify at least 7, but no more than 12 children?
That is the condition that Murray City has. I typically run 8 to 10 kids. I have taken up to 12 in the past, but that's Murray City's conditions. But for preschool, I keep it around 8 to 10.
So if you only had 5 proposed for a season or a duration, a period of time, you just can't hold your session?
I have never had less than 8. So frankly, I don't know how that would affect my business, but
Okay.
yeah.
And you're just planning on 3 sessions right now?
Yes, just 3 morning sessions.
Perfect. Any additional questions for the applicant?
I'm just going to say this is classified in our city ordinance, Title 17, as a group educational use. So the group has certain parameters, and that parameter is that 7 to 12. We have other use criteria for different types of businesses that may have less.
And I would assume it's to prevent somebody from running a home occupation of daycare and calling it a preschool. So you have to have a certain threshold of, yeah, okay.
Because I know we also have, like, there's tutorings and things like that that have smaller classes in there that we approve occasionally. So
I guess I have a little bit of a question around the parking. You've done this in the past. Have you been successful with a 5 to 10 minute window? I have a 4-year-old drop off, and if I'm that precise, wow, that's a good day.
Yeah, it's ideally it works. I do encourage a lot of carpooling. Like at the back to school open houses, we'll try to arrange carpooling as much as possible. And this neighborhood, we do have a lot more younger homes than where I have been doing it. And so we're hoping that we can get some foot traffic instead. So kind of the combination, we're hoping that ideally it will work out. We have about 5 to 6 spaces in the driveway. So ideally it will work out, but in practice it might not always be perfect. So
How long does it normally take for a drop off?
a drop off would be, I mean, if they're not chatty, it'll be 5 minutes or less. I ask that they bring the child to the door and then they are gone.
And same for a pickup?
Yeah. It's very quick.
I think it's coming at a pretty limited time of day. Lunchtime, I don't think the neighborhood probably gets a lot of traffic. Maybe the 9 o'clock drop off.
well, I mean, she's been operating for 4 years. Within Murray, we haven't heard any
We haven't had
complaints of-
complaints, right? We don't have, yeah.
So, violations at MU.
All right, we'll have you take a seat. Thank you. All right, if there's anybody here to speak to this issue, public meeting's open. All right, seeing none, we will close it and bring it back up here for a motion or further discussion.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. I'd propose that the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit to allow preschool at property address 5099 South Germania Place, subject to the 5 conditions stated.
I have a motion by Mr. Hacker to approve a conditional use permit to allow preschool at the property address 5099 South Germania Place, subject to conditions 1 through 5. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Wilson. Call for a vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
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 You know,
Yes. Motion carries. Thanks for staying in Murray. Good luck. All right. Item number 7 is Ojeda, sorry, I knew I was going to do it. Auto LLC, seeking a conditional use for vehicle sales at the property address 4644 South, 160 West. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you up in just a moment. Mr. Smallwood.
Okay, this is a property in the MG zone. It's this back corner right here, and then I believe goes down further. They are looking to do a wholesale auto sales business. They currently run a minor repair, a body repair shop at the, which is a permitted use in the MG zone. So this is just to allow them to sell those repaired cars over to dealers or to the public that have already come in and looked at the car through auction. So going through that, this is their site plan. There are some trees and things. See, sometimes it works along this edge right here. And their space is over on the right hand side. Here are a few pictures. One of the conditions that I made mention to in the pre-meeting was that here is the ADA spot, and we had 2 inoperable vehicles hanging out in that spot. So we require that those need to be removed, and that needs to be free and maintained for people that may need to use that spot. So with that, planning staff is recommending approval of this conditional use permit subject to the 8 conditions before you. Any questions for me?
Can you go back to the previous picture?
I can.
There's an item that sticks out to me as odd.
Sure.
Next to those cars that are hanging out, what do we see there? An unscreened dumpster. Right?
In front of that truck.
In between the...
Oh, yes, there is an
Yeah.
unscreened dumpster there that I
So-
just must have missed.
Yeah.
Well, would it have to be screened? Because it's probably
it's-
not
Does
it have to be
visible from
screened?
this
It's in the
street.
interior, so I
So
don't
it's
know.
interior.
Yeah, you don't want a dumpster in an
I don't
ADA.
know.
Yeah, a dumpster right in front of an ADA. I mean, that's...
In that location.
Right.
Yeah, so
okay.
we would need anything removed
Okay,
from
so yeah, just more of a, you obviously took that picture and that's happening, so I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for catching that.
It's kind
Well,
of
actually, it was
astute
Maren.
It
observation.
was a hot day.
Marin caught it. She
observation.
goes, look, an unscreened dumpster. And I,
It's unfortunate that we have a wrecked car and a dumpster in our ADA space.
Yeah.
well, they couldn't fit the wrecked car in the dumpster. Maybe they hoped that someone would just pick it up.
Any additional questions for Mr. Smallwood?
So this was the item here where the number 4 actually had the, as Lisa was saying, the addition of a Saturday work period.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hacker. Yeah, that one would, that condition would need to be amended to include Saturday, 10 to 4 as well.
Okay. We'll make note of that. All right, thank you. If we could have the applicant come up and state your name and address for the record.
Leticia Ojeda, 829 North, 730 West, Tuala.
Have you had an opportunity to review the 8 conditions?
Yes.
And you'll be able to comply with those 8 conditions. With condition number 4, are you okay with adding Saturdays until 4 p.m., 5 p.m.? Do you have a 4 p.m., so 9 to 4 p.m.?
9 to 4.
Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the presentation?
No.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? You'd be willing to move the cars out of the ADA parking spot? And
Yeah, but those cars are not ours right now. So.
it's very typical for the property, so we're not surprised by that.
We understand the
But the
issue.
property owner,
that property has more unclaimed cars than anywhere else. So.
We'll find another spot for you.
Right.
Just put them in someone else's ADA spot.
Because the owner isn't here, should we change the wording in item 8 slightly? Instead of saying inoperable vehicles, just say any obstruction?
Well, I mean, the property owner has to move them,
Well,
right?
the number
see what
7
she's
says
saying.
ADA must be cleared and
Yeah, there
available
you
for
go.
appropriate
There
use.
you
So
go.
that would
So
cover
it
the
covers
dumpster.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Good call.
All right, thank you.
I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay, we will open this up for public comment if anyone would like to speak to this issue. Seeing no takers, we will close the public comment and bring it back up here for discussion or motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to allow an auto sales business at the property addressed 4644 South 160 West, subject to conditions 1 through 8 with the amendment to condition 4 that adds Saturday 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to the operating hours.
I have a motion by Mr. Woodbury to approve a conditional use permit to allow auto sale business at the property address 4644 South, 160 West, subject to conditions 1 through 8 with number 4 amended as read into the record. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Ms. Patterson. Call for a vote, please.
Yep.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Good luck with your business. All right. Item number 8 this evening is the Bullwinkle conditional use accessory dwelling unit, property address 1202 West Murray Bluff Courts. The applicant here this evening. We'll have you up in just a moment.
Okay.
Mr. Bourne, welcome. Nice to see you.
Good evening. The applicants are requesting conditional use permit approval to do some remodeling in their basement for an accessory dwelling unit at the property addressed 1202 West Murray Bluffs Court. That's actually on the northwest corner of Murray Bluffs Drive and Murray Bluffs Court. Highlighted in red here is the subject property. It's located down close to the Murray Parkway, the golf course and the parkway down there. It's located in the single-family residential zone, the R110 zone, on just slightly over 1/3 acre of property. The total square footage of the dwelling is just under 3,500 square feet, and they're proposing to convert approximately 25% of that, just under 900 square feet, which complies with the city land use regulations. The maximum square footage for an ADU is 1,000 square feet, or 40%, and it meets that criteria. This is a floor plan of the upstairs and the garage, which is located off of Murray Bluffs Drive. This is a plan of the basement, and the shaded area is, and I'll be able to verify that when I do a business license inspection. There, I'll verify that the shaded area in the basement is going to be used by Jay and Monica for storage. You can see that the ADU includes one bedroom, a kitchenette, a sitting room, and a great room. It meets all the development standards required by Murray City, and the city is recommending approval based on, let's see, well, let's take a look at the photos. They do have a triple garage, like I mentioned, off of Murray Bluffs Drive. So there's 6 available parking stalls. We did receive a call, staff received a call apparently from one of the neighbors that had some concerns about the walkway from the rear of the property out to Murray Bluffs Court. And so we just wanted to make a point. Visitors, for whoever lives in the ADU, can park on the public street, but the tenants of the ADU should be parked in the driveway. The photo on the top left is the walkout basement, which is located in the rear yard, and then the Bottom left is a photo of the front of the dwelling. So, like I mentioned, the city is recommending approval of the accessory dwelling unit based on these 6 conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Bourne?
Sure. No questions?
I think you're free.
Okay.
We'll have you maybe in a minute. All right, if we could have the applicant come up and just state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Monica Baldwin, 1202 West Marine Bluff Court.
Okay, have you had an opportunity to review the 6 conditions as presented? All right, and you'll be able to comply with those?
Yes.
Perfect. Just want to take a moment to talk about condition number 5 because it's always one that we like to point out, and that states that you have to sign your affidavit saying that you live in the home. Okay, and you'll be willing to comply with that. Okay, perfect. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Pretty standard.
All right. Anything?
So can we go back to the floor plan? Is that possible quickly? We just were noticing and pointing out in the pre-meeting that the layout has one bedroom shaded that is just right next to the other bedroom. And it would be, I know you're so close to being over that limit. Is that why you eliminated that bedroom from the rental unit, or is that not a bedroom?
It is a storage room that can be converted to a bedroom.
Gotcha. So currently it's not finished or used as a storage room?
It is a storage room right now.
Okay.
Am I answering the question correctly?
Yeah.
I think so.
Storage room that
Perfect. We just noticed it was like right next to it, like maybe it would be a second bedroom or something, but yeah, just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. This is a public hearing, so we will open this up for public comment. If there's someone from the public that would like to speak to this issue, we ask that you come up and state your name and address. All right, seeing none, we will close the public comment and bring it back up here for motion and or discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to allow the accessory dwelling unit at the property address 1202 West Murray Bluffs Court, subject to the 6 conditions.
All right, I have a motion by Mrs. Patterson to approve a conditional use permit to allow for an accessory dwelling unit at the property address 1202 West Murray Bluff Courts, subject to conditions 1 through 6. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Second by Ms. Milkevich. Sorry. Call for a vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. All right. That's the end of our formal agenda this evening. Mr. McNulty.
Thank you, Commissioner Ney. Just a few items, follow up. So as we indicated in the pre-meeting earlier tonight, we have quite a few applications that have come in recently that are working through our process to come before the Planning Commission. First, I want to get a head count for our next meeting for September 6th, which is the Thursday after Labor Day. It's actually 3 weeks from tonight. So is there anybody who cannot make that meeting?
I'm going to just...
Mr. Woodbury, I'm sure.
Yes, Mr. Woodbury.
I'm only good for every other meeting anyway.
It's all good.
Be on
Anyone
an airplane.
else?
I know, that's a shock.
Okay, so we have roughly a dozen items that will be coming before you on that evening. You know, I'm just going to be approximate in the numbers, so we need to plan on being here till 10 or 10:30 in the evening. There's a lot of applications, and they're not all easy applications. We had some easier ones tonight. There could be some more complicated applications that have more public input and more issues that we're dealing with. So
Will light refreshments be served?
could be.
Okay.
Could be. Could be. I can always
Should
make
I
a
bring
run
my ID?
somewhere. No.
Actually, if it goes till 10, I may make it for the second half. So.
There you go. I can't provide that type of refreshment, Commissioner
More
Martin.
importantly, will you be here?
So,
You know, Ms. Milkevich, I was going to talk to you about that right after. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I'll be here.
and then the same goes likely for the 20th. So our 2 agendas in September are going to be quite a few items. It seems like summer's winding down, and a lot of our applicants are saying, wow, you know, summer's over. Here it is. I better get my stuff turned in. So we've had at least 15 or 16 applications come in the last week, which is amazing. It's the most I've seen since I've been here, roughly the 18 months.
I will be here the 20th.
You will.
Yeah.
Great.
Push the hard ones off till the 20th.
We could.
Just push the hard ones to the 20th. I'm fine.
We could table some items.
For you as well.
Perfect.
We could table a few complicated items.
Table them all.
Bring
for
them
me.
all.
I'll bring
Got it.
refreshments.
Let's just tear through them.
Okay, and then the last thing I have this evening is I wanted to let you know that we are having our traditional training next Wednesday night over at the Development Services Building from 6 to 7:30 p.m. However, there's a little twist or a wrinkle this particular year. We are going to have it, or call it, in this particular case, it is a training. I'm looking at what Susan gave me, and it's different than what the council sent out today. So it is land use training for the Planning Commission, our hearings officers, and the City Council this time around.
Nice.
And so it's going to include 3 to 4 City Council people, because we have had a plethora of land use issues come before them, as well as the Planning Commission in the last year, just to say it lightly. We have a commissioner, a council member, Dale Cox, and his district has seen a lot of development. It's kind of in the area or neighborhood where Mr. Commissioner Woodbury lives. A lot of development in the Bullion Street area. Yes.
Everybody lives there.
Yes, and Phil and others. And so there have been a lot of phone calls placed to him, meetings.
Yeah.
I think Mayor Camp, being a first-time mayor, also may
mayor
join
lives
us.
there.
The mayor lives there. We've had this pushback on ADUs, which the commission's aware of. So we've had a lot of issues come up, and I can tell you where a ton of them have come up. They've been in the meetings about the tax increase. So we've had a lot of residents show up and ask a lot of different questions about land use in those meetings that were held at the library or held here at City Hall and in other areas. So we are going to include the council this year as part of that discussion. I've been directed to do so. If you have any other questions, we can speak to that off the record.
Are we in the new budget year?
We are. Yes.
Anything
We
you
are.
want to tell us about that?
Well, the Planning Commission stipend is increased to $40
We got
per
a
meeting
raise?
over the 25, so that's one thing. So
It's a miracle. Thanks.
yeah, I
I
was
don't actually
trying.
qualify because I don't come to enough meetings.
I was trying for 50, but I was pushed back down to 40. But it is an increase.
Good. Keep my
So-
taxes
There
low.
is a minimum attendance requirement, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. So if you come
I have
to,
tenure.
if you, yeah,
That's all you have.
if you come to every meeting in quarterly time period, you might get about $100 more.
Well, that's all right. My wife just takes it anyway.
Okay.
In all fairness, you did warn us you were busy.
I know.
Yeah.
I offered. I said, if you find
Thank
someone
you.
better.
That's all I have this evening, and I'll pass this out. I have an agenda for you guys. We're going to cover a lot of things in that 90 minutes next week. So Tim is going to be talking about an overview of land use issues. We've got Jared talking about general plan and zoning. We've got Susan Nixon talking about our land use process as far as pre-development meetings, planning review meetings, and how we schedule planning commission items. We have a legal review that will be done by Gio Critchfield and Bryant Farnsworth.
Hopefully Brian has a lot to say about it.
And you can see, you'll see, we didn't exactly word particular items, but you'll see that we have an item on there for recent land use decisions. So, and then we'll talk about code updates as far as some changes to our subdivision ordinance, sign code, and other cleanup items. So we're going to try to pack a good punch, and we'll have a catered meal. Hopefully it's an improvement over last year.
Do we know what it is?
I do.
Costco pizza?
It's not. It's, it will be chicken fajitas and rice and guacamole and chips and that type of thing.
I have a question, Jim.
Yes.
So this morning, Jim was at our WFRC Regional Growth Committee meeting. And the Chamber of Commerce did a study, I think it's probably about over the last 6 months, and it was a housing study and looking at the market for housing in the region, cost of housing compared to the Intermountain West. And my real question, Jim, is something like that going to be presented? I mean,
Thank you, sir.
I know there's significant housing shortages in the region right now, and I do land use and planning for the region on a daily basis. So whether that's known by a lot of people, I don't know, but something like that I think could be of significant value to everybody. Just, oh, by the way, we've got unbelievable growth. It's expected to happen continually over the next 30 years to the tune of 50,000 people in the region a year. So, and we already have a housing shortage today.
Yeah.
So that was the presentation at the end with the representative from the Salt Lake, was it Chamber of Commerce?
Yes.
And they have been going to all the cities along the Wasatch Front and making presentations to councils, probably committee of the whole type meetings. That has not been scheduled with Murray City as of yet to give that particular presentation. That's something we need to talk about. But I can tell you this, we're in good shape because we just redid our general plan last year, adopted it in 2017. There's a lot of cities that haven't redone their general plan in the last 5 or 10 years. It should be redone every 5 years, 10 at the most, at the furthest out. We do meet the low to moderate income housing requirements recently sent to us by the state of Utah. And there were new requirements passed in this past legislative session. Sorry, I said passed twice. We were working on that biannual housing report. We have to submit that to the state of Utah every other year to show that, you know, they want to know which cities are compliant with their standards and which are not. We met their criteria. We submitted it in the last 2 weeks to the state. It's not due till the end of the year, but we did our general plan already. We got the new criteria. We tasked staff to do that. So we're in a pretty good position. Does that mean that we're done and we don't approve any more multifamily or higher density housing and next to transit in those areas? Certainly not. You know, the interesting thing is we met their criteria, but not by much. And you look at Murray and we have a fair share of all different types of housing. We've got single family, we've got multifamily, every type you can think of. High density housing that's being done in the 60 to 70 unit per acre range that Envision Utah is just pleading with cities to approve higher density because a lot of communities don't. They're not
Market
allowing
rate, though.
for it. Market rate. They are market rate. That's correct. And so Murray Crossing, that question was asked recently on Commerce and Vine. Those are market rate. And I believe they'll start around $1,000 to $1,100 a month for the
So that doesn't
smallest
help
units.
our mix.
It does. It does in some respects, but in other respects it doesn't because there's numbers. They're wanting to know the number of multifamily and affordable type housing units. It is market rate, but we do have some older, housing product and apartments that do meet that criteria for low to moderate income. I cannot stand the term low income housing. It's low to moderate income. And when people say that, they're just kind of being mean or throwing people under the bus. So
Those people.
Those people.
That's the term.
Lisa.
For a full understanding of what you're saying, are we ahead of the race, or just is everyone meeting the standards, or most people not meeting the standards? Where do we stand?
Most are not. We've met the standard for this go around for what they want by year end 2018. We have met that standard. Now, our general plan is good for the next time we're asked to do the biannual, 2 years out, because it's good for 5 years, and then we'll have to change the housing element. But we could change it between now and then. But the state has told us we can use our general plan for 2 cycles because they're 2 years apart. That doesn't mean that we don't keep plugging along and keep looking at all different types of housing. One of the things that was reported today that the housing stock's really changed along the Wasatch Front, it's about 45% single family. And then the other 55% is multiple family housing based on the newer housing developments that are being built along the Wasatch
Is that
Front.
the first time it's been below 50%?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it, Ned?
It's
Yeah.
been,
Yeah.
I think, the last time they looked was less than 10 years ago. It was 65%
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
single family.
That's it.
So that's a dramatic shift.
Yeah.
It's only going to continue.
So quite a shift. We're at 45, 55 now, so it's not even 50%. So
Is there information around that shift because of the cost of living, or because preference, or do we have?
There is information like that, and to me, it's very interesting. So, Ned, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's something where I could reach out to them and actually have them come to one of our pre-meetings and give that presentation. I don't think it's just meant for the council. I think the planning commission should have that presentation made to them as well. So we'll find out. They say they're trying to get out to a lot of communities by the end of the year. They've not reached out to us yet, but I'll talk to my boss and we'll see what we want to do and get them in here and get them to talk to you for. It was about 15 or 20 minutes. It doesn't take for. But
Well, you
it'd
could
be
let
good
us
for
know
you.
when they're going to talk to the council, and
Yeah,
we could
committee
just
of the
attend
whole.
that. That would be simpler than having them come out twice.
And I like that idea as they're attending your annual training next week. So we'll, yes.
We can crash
Thank
their
you.
party.
Correct.
Jim, just one other thing before we adjourn in that, and I wasn't real uncomfortable at the last meeting. I was bothered by some comments. There's only been one meeting in how many years, Scott?
6.
6 years that I've been on the board that I kind of felt threatened. We had one gentleman really get upset several years ago. But I'm a little bothered by the tenor of some of the attendees.
Okay.
And I think, it's not going to get better. And I think it's just something that the police department or that it would be nice to know that there's somebody in the building, not necessarily sitting here, as a presence, but it's after hours. They're all out. We don't have a lot of extra officers. It'd just be nice to know that there's some kind of plan in place in case somebody blows their cool.
And I will follow up on that. We have had occasion where we had a meeting a few months ago.
few months
where we
ago,
had an officer here.
I had an officer.
And we can look at agendas and say, hey,
Yeah.
this could be an
I
issue.
think
So
that
let's
would
have
be a
someone
good idea.
around.
Yeah.
And September 6th might be the same thing because
Yeah.
we have some items that couple items that, you never
And if
know
they're at
what
the
could
back
happen.
end of the
So,
agenda and they've been waiting for 2 hours,
Yep.
it gets frustrating.
And here's what I do know about the poor officer that was here last time. He had worked an entire shift and then was on call, so he got
Yeah.
the default duty. So if we
That's
could
tough.
plan in advance,
Okay.
or something, so that you don't
Okay.
have to stick some guy with a 16 or 18-hour shift to.
And I can talk to Chief Burnett about that. That makes
Yeah,
sense. Because
just-
I was just in a meeting with him yesterday.
As
so I'll
you
talk
look
to
at
him
the
about that.
agendas and that, and you may get a feel leading up to that agenda with comment coming into the office that there's a lot of hot topic and stuff.
Okay.
Along that same line of thought, could they be present while we're exiting as well? Because I've never felt threatened, except sometimes I've left some of those heated meetings thinking, and now I'm in the parking lot in the dark.
Yeah.
Well, we could check into that, or also a staff member could escort you to your vehicle as well. So we'll look at that. Thank you.
I'm a big burly man. I'll walk you out.
You never know what can happen. I've seen some interesting things
No,
in my
I
career,
know.
even a fist fight once out in a parking lot.
I'd
So
rather
you
be
never know.
proactive
So,
than
Agreed.
yeah. Thank you.
regretful.
I have to say, if my husband sees that tape, he'll probably laugh. He would say I could stay my own, but
I got you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Carried. Yep.